Defense mechanisms are unconscious ways of suppressing and avoiding uncomfort, fear, and threats, a way of making ourselves feel better. Some can be quite useful as protecting mechanisms, others are more sabotaging and lead to a painful life in toxic relationships. To learn about self-deception is even more important than tackling the deceptive behaviors of others. The following are 8 self-defense mechanisms you need to be aware of. Denial. Sometimes accepting the things we have done or said to others, the feelings we have experienced, can cause us a great deal of guilt and fear. So instead of processing things, we deny their existence. It is unpleasant since it denies actual reality, like the woman who denies stealing things and blames it on another party to avoid self-hatred, or the man who denies his romantic feelings towards his brother's wife. Learn to be honest with yourself by keeping a journal of your experiences. Examine your fears if they are real or not, and act accordingly. Displacement. Displacement is all about redirecting the feelings we usually hold for someone, usually an aggressor, into another person, animal, or object. It comes from an acceptance of the ego that expressing those feelings is rather irrational, problematic, or even dangerous. So it finds an alternative way that won't upset the superego. It's like the chain of yelling. The boss yells at his employees, and the employees might go home and yell at their spouses, and the spouse will yell at their kids. Sublimation. Sublimation is a subtype of displacement. It involves an act of transformation. The person will turn their negative behaviors and problematic impulses into positive ones, like the envier type who would decide to channel their envy and transform it into ambition or admiration of human excellence, or the aggressive person who would shift his aggression into a therapeutic career. Instead of bullying people, he would teach self-defense. Reaction formation. This mechanism is concerned with avoidance of certain unacceptable ideas and behaviors by expressing their total opposite. For example, a man who might have homosexual feelings deep down would react in the opposite direction and develop a prejudice or dislike towards homosexuals. People who react strongly to criticism from others regarding a certain belief of theirs are susceptible to this type of self-deception. Projection. One clever maneuver to self-deceive is to attribute the negative qualities and beliefs that we have to others. You can see it in the nice guy who is envious and sees all successful males to only want sex from women. A friend who is jealous of another might accuse that person of being the one who is jealous. Projecting is a fascinating mechanism that avoids accepting one's weaknesses. To know the things you project to others is a great step towards uncovering your shadow self. Identification with the aggressor. Sometimes when a person is under immense fear of being harmed, like a hostage situation or under the control of a cult leader, the ego protects itself by identifying with the aggressor. The victim thinks that they are not really in danger if they are a part of the team. This leads them to commit some of the most terrifying crimes. The person usually takes in the behaviors of the aggressor and imitates them. This creates a feeling of empathy towards the abuser. Stockholm Syndrome is a great example of this mechanism. There are usually 4 components to Stockholm Syndrome. 1. The hostage develops a positive feeling towards the captor. 2. No previous relationship between the captor and a hostage exists. 3. The hostages refuse to cooperate with the police. 4. Hostages believe in the humanity of the captor since they learn to hold the same values. JAN-ERIK OLSSON was a convict who took 4 hostages during a bank robbery for 6 days. After their release, all hostages refused to testify against the aggressor and he immediately started raising money for his defense. Rationalization. The mind of the person creates a distortion of the facts to justify their actions and categorize an event or deed as less threatening. Rationalization is one of the most common and elusive psychological defense mechanisms, specifically because it's natural and easy. For example, the person might justify their cheating in class as okay because everyone does it, or a cult leader might justify the death of hundreds of people as God's will. Completely delusional explanations that seem logical to the person. Regression. Regression is a mechanism of psychological withdrawal to old childhood days, an early stage of development when things were easier and more comfortable. As a reaction to fear or anxiety, human beings revert to childish behaviors and primitive deeds. The person might commit impulsive actions, eat meals associated with their childhood, watch childish cartoons. For example, a teenager might laugh uncontrollably when exposed to a social situation involving a member of the opposite sex, or binge-watch Tom and Jerry after a stressful day of work. There are numerous self-defense mechanisms I haven't mentioned that exist which will be interesting to explain in the future. There will be certainly a second video. Remember, self-deception is usually the root to most of your problems. Find the root by seeing things as they are. If you want to know more about this, click this video. Stay courteous.